Good day, dear students. Today, in this lecture 3, we will discuss the various theories around wages. There are economic theories which talk about demand, supply, pricing, and so on, and there are behavioral theories which deal with human behavior. So, the compensation or wages is decided based on the behavioral aspect of human beings at work. In economic theories, we have 8 theories to discuss. So, quickly we'll go through each one of them, and please do go through the notes shared as well. So, this is part 1 of theories of wages. So, part 1 will exclusively talk about economic theories. So, the first one is subsistence wage theory, which was proposed by David Ricardo. As per him, employees or laborers should be paid wages at subsistence level. Subsistence level means minimum level where they can survive and maintain themselves and their families. He says if more is paid, there will be an increase in supply of labor. He says there will be an increase in supply of labor owing to increase in population. Now, the other reason is also that with more income to labor, labor will now be attracted to pursue more employment. So that is also the other reason. So with increase in supply, labor supply, there will be automatic decrease in wages back to subsistence level. So this is the first logic. So if you pay more, he says supply will increase and wages will come down. And second logic he gives us, if they are paid below subsistence level, the laborers naturally won't be able to sustain themselves and will die of starvation. So wages will have to be accordingly increased at least to subsistence level. So he says at subsistence level, wages should be paid. Okay. So this is a very conservative theory of the 17th, 16th, 17th century, which doesn't talk about the demand for labor and completely disregards the skill of people. People get paid with better skills, right? So that is not at all considered. And this also in a way very exploitative, because here he constantly insists upon subsistence level of wages with complete disregard for luxury, comfort, or anything else. Moving on, the next theory has been proposed by Karl Marx, and it's called the surplus value theory, where it is very similar to that of David Ricardo's subsistence wage theory. Karl Marx agrees with David Ricardo on wages at subsistence level, but he says this level can be improved with the presence of labor unions. They can alter the situation. And second deviation is he also believed the reason for increase in availability or supply of labor is because the capitalist system has created widespread unemployment. So he disagrees with the fact that labor supply increases because of increase in wages, but he says it increases because in a capitalist system, when they opt for better technology, a lot of people become unemployed, and also because of the exploitative nature of capitalist, they take too much work from single individual. There are too many people who are unemployed. So these are the two deviations from Ricardo, from David Ricardo's theory. Okay. Next is the wage fund theory. This was proposed by Adam Smith and J.S. Mill. As per this theory, there is a wage fund maintained by employers, and this is created out of excess savings that they have. So the logic is the more the amount in the fund, the better the demand for laborers and their wages. This theory again disregards skills of people and other aspects, like such a fund could be used for business expansion or something else, right? So that is not considered at all. It's again a classical old theory. The next theory is proposed by Philip Henry and J.B. Clark, and it's called the marginal productivity theory. As per this theory, wages are determined based on the production contribution of the last worker. So each worker will get based on his or her contribution. So this is based on lot of unrealistic assumptions like perfect competition, constant technology, and so on. So although this gives a good theoretical base that based on your output or performance there is payment made, it doesn't really tell us how to compute wages in such a manner. Moving on, next we have the bargaining theory of wages, which was proposed by John Davidson. As per him, there is an upper limit and a lower limit that the employers can afford. Upper limit is what best can be given out, and lower limit is what minimum has to be paid. Many times this is mandated by government. In this case, he says wages are determined by the relative bargaining capacity of the employers and the employees. So whosoever is able to bargain better wins here, and somewhere the wages will fall between the upper and the lower limit. The next theory is called the demand and supply theory. So demand and supply theory is again economics. So here this was proposed by Marshall, and he says labor rate is determined by the demand for and supply of laborers. Higher rates are given where supply is low and demand is high, and lower rates are given where there is good supply and demand is also not as much. Okay, so it is an equilibrium between demand for and supply of laborers. And then the last two theories in the economic theories, we have the purchasing power theory proposed by Professor A.C. Pigou and the comparative advantage theory. So in the purchasing power theory, Pigou says all the wages meant cost for an employer. So obviously it is a cost, right? It's an investment. But it gave purchasing power in the hands of employees. So once employees have purchasing power, they would be able to spend more on goods and services. So consumption will go up, which indirectly also helps the industrialist because even his items are going to be sold off. Okay, so increase in wages leads to increase in consumption. So he advocated better wages and better consumption, and that leading to more demand, and then the cyclical positive impact. Better wages, better consumption, leading to more demand, which again leads to more demand for laborers, for more production, again higher supply. And so, he generally had a very positive outlook towards better wages. But again, he ignored that a substantial amount is also used as savings. People don't necessarily spend all the amount that they have on consumption, and they may not be spending all the items, spending everything on the items produced by the industrialists. So that was once again a drawback. And moreover, people many times preferred purchasing goods that were more economical. I mean, we have seen that items from China were so popular even till recently, right? Okay. And his assumption, Professor Pigou's assumption that overproduction can be tackled with higher wages. But he indirectly said when you have too much of production, then you give higher wages, people will buy more. I mean, that is highly unrealistic. Okay. And the last theory is comparative advantage theory proposed by Adam Smith. As per this theory, production moves to places of cheaper labor, raw material, and so on. This is because countries and companies compete on the basis of comparative advantage. So that is why we had so many industries moving to India, China, and other places, right? Manufacturing industries, and then you have the BPOs, call centers, everything coming to this part of the world. So wages are decided based on where the factors of production or where the laborer is working. But the thing is also that people try to move to places where they get better wages. So although employers want to push and push work where there is cheap labor, laborers on the other hand want to go to places where there are better wages, better income. And it also ignores one more important factor, that there are government restrictions, especially on outsourcings, and in recent times we are seeing it a lot more. We know how Trump has put restriction on so many things that are getting outsourced because he wants to give employment to his own people. So these are good theories for consideration, but it's a combination of all these theories that help to arrive at some logical wage structure. Okay. In part 2, we'll be talking about behavioral theories. Thank you so much.